Changing articulator analogs. In developing the Panadent system, Dr. Bob Lee studied condylar movements extensively. In his research, he made up custom motion analogs for individual patients. He ultimately discovered that he could make generic analogs based on the Bennett side shift of the condylar movement. The Panadent Corporation manufactures generic motion analogs for its articulator in half-millimeter increments from 0.5 to 2.5. Recall in doing the hinge axis location, the Bennett shift was established for the patient. Here the viewer can see 2.5 millimeter analogs already in place. Remember, the patient had Bennett shift recordings of 2.5 on the left and 1.5 on the right. Even though the recording measures the laxity of the contralateral condyle, Panadent has incorporated this laxity into the ipsilateral analog. It is a simple matter to replace the appropriate analog on the same side from which the measurement was recorded. Nothing else needs to be done. With proper analogs in position, the condylar inclines can now be set. At this point, it is also very important to reverse the position of the reference plane support block that was done prior to performing the hinge axis location. Next, attach the reference plane tool to the reference plane support block and attach the reference plane clamps to help line up the plane to the hinge axis location on the graph. This requires multiple adjustments from one side to the other in order to line up the reference plane with its axis point. Once on the axis point, it's simply a matter of taking a pen and scribing a line along the reference plane tool. After drawing the line, remove the graphs from the head frame and place it on paper. Using the Panadent scale provided in the AxiPath kit, measure the condylar incline. A mock-up example of how to read this scale is provided to make it more clear. The AxiPath protractor has condylar path indicators on it. Line up the tip of the curve for the right or left condylar path on the appropriate hinge axis point marked on the graph paper. Simply read where the reference plane tool mark crosses the scale. A Whipmix scale or a Panadent scale is provided depending on the mounting system used. Once determined, this number is written down and recorded on the graphs with the patient's name and date. It is important to make sure the condylar inclines, the Bennett shift, the date, and the articulator serial number are written on the patient's beautified casts. Then it is a matter of changing the condylar inclinations on the articulator and setting the set screws.